Hi, everybody. Oh, welcome to this Monday with some updates and exciting things to share. Um, as you would hopefully know, because I made a video and then posts all over the place Twitter, Reddit, Instagram, Facebook that I organized a protest in Fort Wayne, Indiana this last weekend, June 15th and 16th. Um, for the convention. This is the first time, this year has been the first time that the witnesses ever have had a convention here. It's my hometown and it's literally like in my backyard, so there was no way that I was not going to have a presence. I want to first, before I talk about that experience, I want to preface it with some of the reasons why some of the emotional things that I was aware I was going to have to deal with and did, and some shout outs here. Firstly, I've never organized a protest before or anything like that. I have been a part of lots of things, but I've never kind of taken the lead in putting anything together, so this is my first time. I did, of course, understand some of the bits to it since I've been in protests before. So I want to give a big shout out and thank you to the XJW Reddit threads for sign ideas. We did use a lot of the ideas that have been posted there and also things that people sent to me. I think I only had one original thought for a sign. Everyone else it was all from the XJW community, so thank you for that. We had a lot of varying signs, which I will tell you what all those were in this video as well. Also, a shout out to my best friend who made us shirts that in great big bold green letters said "Love Never Shuns," that we all wore when we held our signs at the protest. And then also for my never JW friends who showed up. Some of them have come from cults as well, different cults that aren't witnesses, so they do have an understanding. However, for them to see in action the the control based out of fear, I should say, on display was fascinating. Honestly, for me, it was fascinating from that side as well, because even though I grew up a witness, was in it for my whole life, basically, and I had a fear of apostates and everything, I didn't realize how controlled I was until I saw it in action by the elders this weekend. It was fascinating and it was disturbing, to say the least. You do not have bodily autonomy even when you're a witness, which we knew in a lot of cases. But when they literally put their arms up and tell people, don't look that way, go this way, and they comply quickly, it's shocking to me. It was shocking in a way that I wasn't prepared for. I knew that they would try to create some barrier. I was expecting that. I expected that they would maybe try to have a distraction, or maybe they made an announcement. I don't know. We didn't have anyone in this convention. But for them to literally tell people where they couldn't, not just not walk, but not look, like where their gaze had to be, was extraordinary to me. I do have videos on my Facebook, which is, those posts are public. I will try to maybe put them here or somewhere else if you like, that shows when one of the women, two of the women who were protesting with me, went from the grassy area to the sidewalk to throw their trash away. The way that they were quickly closed in on and followed so closely that if they had stopped, the ministerial servants, elders, whatever, the men would have run into them. The bullying and the cowardness on their part for people holding paper signs was extraordinary to me. My goal with this going into it is I did not want to buy into the stereotype of the angry apostate. We didn't want bullhorns. We didn't want speakers. We simply wanted to stand together as a community with signs large enough to read from across a parking lot that had facts on them about witnesses that would hopefully do two things: arise some curiosity and conversation within the cult, and give PMOs some hope that there's life out here, and to know that they're being supported until they're able to get out. With that said, I became aware a few weeks ago that all of my immediate family, all of my siblings, as well as their children and their children's spouses, were going to be attending this convention. The reason that was a surprise, I guess you could say, is because all of them live in other states. Like I say, this year's the first year that they've had 2 conventions in town. And I understand why they're coming back. It's because they're coming back to their hometown. They're coming back to see their friends they've known forever. Knowing that they were going to be there, and I hadn't seen them in almost a decade since my brother's funeral, was overwhelming for me. I had a lot of trepidation, sadness, I guess, just deep grief on the idea of seeing especially my nieces and nephews. But I did it anyways, and we actually did Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday morning. We were going to do Sunday afternoon, but the heat here has, that was the first day it became in the upper 90s with high humidity and no shade, so we would have been directly in the sun, and it just wasn't the safest idea. So we just did up till Sunday morning, and quite honestly, my nerves were shot by then anyways, and so I kind of, for my mental health, which I will always put first, I myself wasn't able to do it. I shared, of course, with anyone if they wanted to be sure to go. I don't believe anyone else did, just because of the heat. It was really, really miserable here. So Saturday morning, when we arrived, we pulled into a parking lot. I pulled into a parking lot that was not the part of the parking lot, I should say, that was not roped off for them. And they kept frantically trying to tell me to go in a different entrance and follow direction. And I was just like, nope, I'm not here for that. And so it's a very large building, and it is split up in different ways. So they were renting the giant conference area, but attached to that are other areas you can rent for weddings and that sort of thing. So they didn't really question it much because I just said I wasn't attending that. My friends had come in the other entrance, and they said, you can't come in this entrance, you need to go. And they said, no, we're not here attending, we're here protesting it. And when they said that, and then they drove off to meet me, one of the elders literally chased them down on foot through the parking lot. And they pulled up next to my car, and they were talking to me, and then this elder came up in his suit and his beard, little tiny white guy with a beard, and he started talking to them in the truck. And Kurt and Michael were they were just shaking their heads. They were no, basically don't talk to us. And I finally spoke up because he just ignored me, of course. And so I said, excuse me, I said, I know this is probably hard for you to believe since I'm a woman, but I'm the one who actually organized this event. So any questions you have, you can direct them to me. He said, not a question, he said a statement. He said, you can't be here. You can't do this. And I laughed at him, and I said, yes, we can. So we had about a 2-minute conversation where I had to explain Indiana law to him in great detail. I spoke really slowly towards the end because he kept saying, you can't be here, you can't be. It was like he was having a meltdown internally. And so I just started it was really passive aggressive. I started speaking really slowly, like he was having a hard time understanding what I was saying. And then I said, I said if he had any, because he told me, he said, well, we've talked to management. And I laughed and I said, good, they'll tell you what I just told you, because that's the law, because I talked to management well before you did. And he took a step back and he was so flustered because he had lied to me. He lied to me right out of the gate, telling me first we couldn't be there, and then two, that he talked to management and that we couldn't be there. Both of those things were blatant lies to intimidate. And I was by then so pissed off. So up to that point, my nerves were shot, my legs were shaking, and then this confrontation, I just was mad. I still was nervous, I still was sick to my stomach, but I was just really angry. But I maintained composure. I just told him the facts. And then he said, well, if you're going to do it, you have to be over here. And I said, I just told you where we have to be and where we can and will be. And I said, we cannot and will not impede sidewalks, entry or exit. So, just go about your day, like, it'll be fine. And he said, well, we'll look and see what you have. I said, please do. Please go ahead and read our signs, so hopefully it can help you wake up as well and realize that you've been brainwashed in a cult. And then he turned his back on me, like, really fast. And he was talking by then to two other elders that had come up, because, they're in packs because they can't do anything alone. It's like a hive mind. And so I said, hey, by the way, excuse me, by the way. And he turned around and I said, yes. And I said, I like your beards, because they all had beards. And he kind of like didn't know what to say. And I said, new light in 2024 for the win, am I right? And he actually laughed, and then he quickly turned away and they walked away. So we went on in, we went up to the grassy area, which was under their giant neon sign announcing where the convention was. We had two other people join us, like, right away, and then another person join us a few minutes later. So we were all there about an hour before, it was an hour and a half before the session. So we were there when the people were starting to come in, and we were able to stand in a spot so that as each car drove by, we were like probably 10 feet from them with these giant signs. They had to look at the signs. There was no way, because they had to drive straight, and we were like right there. And then as they were coming in, we were up in a grassy area where they could see it better. I was very nervous. My nerves were really fried, and so I couldn't get as close as I wanted that first morning just because of it. But we were close enough that they immediately started redirecting foot traffic so that the foot traffic could not come on the part of the sidewalk where we were. They had to go all the way around. And it meant that if you were handicapped, parking in the handicap lot, which was across from us, they made these infirm elderly people in wheelchairs and on walkers go this extremely long way around so they could go in, because they did not allow them to come up by us. Then they had all these ministerial servants, elders, whatever, these dudes in beards. Almost everyone has a beard. And suits standing with their backs to us. So they were like on the concrete entry, and then we were in the grass. They had their backs to us, like they're trying to block us. Like, I'm almost 6 foot tall, and I have really long arms and a big sign. Like, it's just gonna look like from people walking in that you have a sign above your head. Like, it was the weirdest strategy. And it was, I know, to intimidate, because they're trying to tell us, like, we're the Gideon's 300 men, I guess, was their point. So we had an array of signs. I'll tell you what those were now. We had things that were humorous, things that were fact, and things that were informative, basically. So we had a friend of mine, and he is holding the sign. It's his sign. He is married to a man, so it is okay for him to have the sign. And it said, gays for women in pants and men with beards. He also had a "Where is Anthony Morris?" and Anthony's head was on it, but he was dressed as Waldo. We had an 8 billion non-JWs are people just like you. We had "She doesn't need two witnesses," and it was the picture of a girl crying with tape over her mouth, and the tape over her mouth said elders. We had "Sisters, you are not the weaker vessel." We had "Love doesn't shun." jwfacts.com for the truth about the truth. Jehovah's Witnesses protect pedophiles. And real happiness is found in the world. Elders protecting pedophiles, not children. And then we had one that had dates all over it, and then that was all the dates of when they used to say the end was going to come. And then it said the end is any day now. We had shunning is abuse. We had you call them apostate, we call them family. We also had, bear with me, oh yes, you call them apostate, we call them family. 144,000 lawsuits. And a few other, either shunning kills or love doesn't shun. We were in the afternoon back in the same spot, but we moved closer. My nerves were fine, so we moved in closer to the grassy area. So we were right by the sidewalk. They lined up 25 ministerial servants, like my friend Kurt said, for 3 women and a gay guy. They had 25 people. It was bizarre. And then on Sunday morning, we actually changed tactic because they had all this, they brought out barricades to make sure that people would corral to the furthest entrance instead of where we had been standing the day before. And so they redirected their traffic pattern so people wouldn't drive that way, so we couldn't stand there and hold signs. They redirected the foot traffic even further away so that, again, that had to go the long way. So we just moved. We just went down the sidewalk and up onto the next grassy area that was right where people were coming in. Some of us split up because Sunday morning we had quite a few more people there. Some of us split up and they went to the front of the entrance where the cars were coming in. There was no way to redirect people because it was right at the entrance. And then we had people out in the grassy area of the parking lot where people, as they parked, got out of the cars, had to walk right by them. And then we were up near the building again in a grassy area that was next to the building. None of us yelled anything. None of us were derogatory. We did have lots of very loud conversation about their changing doctrine and how ironic it was, like we were talking amongst ourselves. We had lots of like funny sarcasm, like I said a couple times, man, beards, how can they tell who's disfellowship now? And beards, or Jehovah's Witnesses ruining beards for apostates since 2024, which I thought was pretty clever. We talked about Steve Lett because he used to be my circuit overseer, and I was talking loudly about how he was my pioneer school instructor and how he used to tell us all the time that the end was going to be well before the year 2000. At one point, one of the persons that was guarding, I just call them their guards, was guarding us, when I was talking about that, put his head down like this and kind of, like you could tell he was kind of listening to what I was saying, which was a huge win. And then there was a woman, and she was out, and she had her phone, and she kind of like was taking pictures of us, and it was obvious. And the little elder with the beard who tried to stop me in the parking lot Saturday morning, he was out there the whole time on patrol. Like he was rabid that we were there. I've never seen someone look so angry by trying not to look angry in my entire life than this guy. And he's standing up by the doors, and there's quite some distance from where she was standing and where he was standing. And I hear this noise, and at the same time I hear it, she hears it, and we both look up, and it's this guy, and he goes like this to her. And she put her phone in her purse and put her head down and walked in there. And we all saw it. And I said, that's what he was expecting from me on Saturday morning. That's what he's used to. He's used to literally snapping his fingers and telling someone, especially a woman, where to go. And they do it. And when he lost control that morning and wasn't able to do it with me, he started then micromanaging and controlling everyone else that he could. And it was so blatantly obvious that it was almost comedic in a way, but also it was really, really sad. So they would have their line of people out there, and the elders, whoever, the guards, when someone would come out at the afternoon session, they would start to glance over, and they would put their hands up like this to them. And they would say, you could hear them say, "Don't look that way, don't look that way." And people would avert their eyes and look down and walk. And I've never, ever, ever seen anything like it. And so Sunday morning when we were back out there, I was saying things really, like, not yelling it, but loud enough that someone probably could hear me. And I was like, man, that's really sad that if just a paper sign is threatening enough to break your faith and you're that afraid of it, what does that say for the faith? And so I kept saying things like that, and you could see some people were getting like frustrated, like annoyed, like the ministerial servants, elders who were guarding us. And then, yes, again, when any one of us would physically walk down the sidewalk, whether it be to go to our car or go to throw trash away, they would come out and they would like just mob and follow and get super close. And then the little guy, the little old white guy, the Hitler in charge guy, he told one of us, he said, "You can't be on the sidewalk." And he tries to tell them what I had told him. And they stopped and said, "No, I can't impede the sidewalk," which means I can't block traffic or have people not coming or going. And he said, "No, you can't be on the sidewalk." And she said, "Well, you better call the authorities then." And then he just left. And then as she's telling me that, I said, "No, he would call the authorities because you're blocking a sidewalk. You're not a pedophile." It was wild. And then, like I say, we weren't aggressive. We weren't yelling. There was no bullhorn. We were just waving our signs in the air. If people would see us and like kind of glance at us, we'd just smile really big and kind of like give them a wave. And we had people reading the signs. You could see them reading them. We had a girl that had a jacket on, and she had her phone up out of the jacket. You could just see the tip top, and she was obviously either filming or taking pictures. We had a couple of covert nods from people in cars. I did get a thumbs up from a guy who I think was just an Uber driver, or he was an unbelieving husband, because he just had dropped someone off and left. And then they had earlier told me, because the adjacent building was having a wedding on Saturday, and the guy had told me, "Well, there's going to be a wedding there. They're not going to want you outside." And I said, "We're not going to be close to the wedding." And I said, "But if they knew what we were here for, I guarantee they wouldn't care that we're here." And he was so frustrated. And so then when we were there Saturday afternoon, there was a lady that was trying to come in to the convention center, and they stopped her, and because she obviously was lost, she was asking them where she could go, and she was a wedding guest, and they were like, "Oh no, you have to go down the sidewalk over here." And she's like, "Okay." And she was coming by us, and she was like, "Man, what is going on?" And she's like, "What are you protesting?" And I said, "A cult." And the person with me next to me said, "Jehovah's Witnesses." And she said, "Ew, oh my God, get me out of here. Good for you." And she hustled away. And I was like, right, she just proved the point about the wedding people not caring if they saw me close to their reception area. It was just so crazy. It was crazy. So we ended up feeling pretty good. And then midway through the protest Sunday morning, I did see all my siblings coming in and one of my nephews. And it was just sad. My sisters looked sad. They didn't look mad. They didn't look angry. They just looked sad. And I know that's what it was from, and I know they probably were embarrassed. So the human part of me gets it. I understand, and I feel, it's not guilt that I feel, honestly. I just feel sad for them. And I'm hopeful that maybe one of those signs they saw triggered something, because they know that Jehovah's Witnesses protect pedophiles, and they know that sisters aren't the weaker vessel. They know that. So who knows what that'll bring. I couldn't dwell on it because it happened later on Sunday and I did not see them on Saturday. I was mentally and emotionally in a much better place, so I didn't really have the visceral reaction that I had kind of prepped myself for. I will say it was very strange for the first time in my entire life being on that side of the convention. I used to love conventions growing up. I absolutely loved them. We used to camp as a family, and so we would go back to the campsite after the convention and cook out and run around and maybe go swimming. And it was like a mini vacation that was so fun after sitting for a long time. And I it was a time for me to see my friends that I hadn't seen in a long time and be with my family for a whole weekend because we were really close. And so for me, conventions had always been a good time. That's just the truth. I mean, I really enjoyed them. So for me to be there was huge, and it was different, and it was terrifying and thrilling and the fact that I had friends drive from over 5 hours away to support for this who were never witnesses but get it is fascinating. Of course, it's women who are trying to help give a voice to other women. I left the first day and I just cried in my car like all the way home. Because it was really difficult. But I just kept telling myself that I was not there to do it for me. I was not there for some purpose other than giving a voice, first of all, to other victims who maybe aren't in a place that they can do that yet. And being able to stand up to an elder toe to toe and tell him in real time that he doesn't have power over me anymore was so liberating. And for him to know that he doesn't have power over women who are not in that cult anymore, had to really hit him in a different way than what anything else could have. The other, thing is I don't monetize any of my work. I don't monetize my YouTube or anything like that. I never have. This isn't why I do it. I have a career. I have a job. I can pay my bills. I really just do it to try to help somebody, anybody. And also, like I said, give PMOs a little nod, right? That they know that we're there. So you don't know what impact that you're having. You just kind of hope for the best. And besides seeing my family, I saw a lot of people I actually grew up with, all the people that used to go to my old congregation. And on my way out, I realized one of the persons that had been standing there with his back to me, directly in front of me the whole day or the whole morning, was someone that I had grown up with. And I realized it when my brother came up and they had an interaction. And it was wild. It was wild. But when I left, I called his name. I walked right by him and I stopped and I said, "Hey, David." There's so many Davids, no one's going to know which one I'm talking about. And he looked at me and he said, and he kind of like cocked his head and I said, "It's Johanna." And he said, "Oh my God, it is." He said, "Hi, how are?" And then he looked down and he saw my sign and he saw who I was with and he took like a physical, he moved back a little. And it wasn't like he was trying to get away from me. It was like the shock was so much. And I said, "Have a good one." And I just left. And then we had about 10 people, ministerial servant guards, following us out to the car. And it was like getting hot. And they had to walk all the way through this hot parking lot. And so when we were almost there, they stopped walking. And so I stopped and turned around and waved. And I said, "Thanks, guys." I said, "Have a great rest of your weekend." And the one waved back at me. I think it was instinct. I think we set a really good example. My other goal with it was to be instead of being the angry apostate, we really didn't give them anything to talk about. We didn't become loud. We didn't become aggressive. We just stood there. And for them to not have a leg to stand on when it comes to us being disruptive is extremely powerful. So, with that said, when I came home, all I could do is hope like maybe I impacted somebody somewhere or something. And I was not home for more than an hour. And I got a Reddit message in my inbox. And it said, "Good morning, Pimo here. I wanted to thank you for protesting the convention this weekend. And let you know it works." It started a discussion with my very Pima wife. Also, both days, the group I was walking in with read the signs and commented on them, as well as the ones I had assignments with. This morning I had another one from another person who's Pimo who thanked us for being there. So good again. And that's honestly all I was hoping for. So I just want to thank the XJW community for their virtual support, in-person support, and the Never JWs who get it. To anyone who said not to protest because we be like them or it doesn't work, I am happy to tell you how wrong that you were. And next year, if and when it is here again, look for any updates, and I would love to have anyone that wants to be there join us with a similar mindset. And if it's not here, I'll see the closest one and probably still do it anyways. So that's it. Thanks for bearing with me through this. And if you have questions, reach out. If you want to see any of those things that are out there, I did put some things on Instagram. I put some stuff on Twitter. My Facebook has a little bit more, and I'll try to make some of those Facebook posts public so it can be seen. I'm really not doing a lot of friend requests anymore unless I know you. Sorry, it's just, it's a lot to manage. But I'll put some stuff out there for public. So that's it. Thanks. And if you have doubts about your personal testimony ever making a difference, it does. That's it. Have a great, wonderful, cult-free day.